After this video, I promise you. I noticed something that no one else noticed before. I think you've guessed it's about G-Man. At first, I wanted to make a video where I would go through two versions of him and try to figure out which one was real. But you know what? While I was researching all the details, I came up with a third, completely different version. At first, I thought the real G-Man was destroyed in episode 65, but he wasn't. Many of you said that the real G-Man was in episode 47 or 57, and he's actually on an upgrade right now, and the Titans destroyed just a decoy. But that's not true either. Grab your tea and snacks. This video will surprise you for real. Here we go. The first thing one of my Instagram followers showed me was this Skibidi in episode 47. Look at him closely. He looks a lot like the guy who was under the G-Man mask in episode 65. These are the eyebrow-raising devices I told you about in the episode analysis. He's also got some kind of plate over his eyes. He looks very robotic. He doesn't have a cistern, and he has some kind of electronics instead. Also, notice this sign right here. It looks a bit like this scientist sign there, but overall it's different. It's like Dafook wants us to pay attention to this mutant, since he appeared in episode 47 and there's a G-Man, so they're two different characters. So this Skibidi doesn't control this G-Man. It turns out that after the explosion, his toilet was destroyed and he was moved to a new one to run the fake G-Man. But was this guy the real G-Man? Let's find out. Originally, G-Man looked like this. He had no lasers or anything like that. He also didn't have a stand on his toilet, but in future versions he had one. Apparently he can fly. We see that in episode 17. Also here, he's clearly not moving on the ground. Apparently he's floating in the air. That's not surprising, since we saw Flying Skibidi in episode 5. But then why does he need a jetpack? Okay, we'll leave that question for now. Episode 38 was the first time we saw an improved version of G-Man. His guns were weak then. He got armor and a new toilet. I mean, we thought G-Man was transplanted from one toilet to another. It's very simple. And so they can be transplanted somehow. But it's not true. Pay attention to this rim. It's very big here, and it's almost hidden in episode 47 and in the new versions. So these are different toilets for G-Man, but why? Why would you change the toilet? I think they are different clones. Let's call them the small rim clone and the big rim clone for now. It turns out no one changed the guns either. Just different clones have different guns. That said, in episode 47, there was also this guy who then went on to run the Skibidi decoy. So there's another version of the G-Man. It turns out that there are a few G-Men, so far we've counted 3, and they're all different. That said, we see blood when Titan punches this Jimmy in the face. So the shell is made of real leather, which means they needed a real G-Man's face for it. Where would they have gotten so many G-Men? For that, we should go back to the earliest episodes. Remember, we often saw little dancing characters as Easter eggs in these episodes? Let's count how many of them there might have been. Right here in episode 1 and 2, they're just dancing. Maybe it's the same G-Man. But here he's being run over by a toilet, so he must be destroyed or absorbed through the bottom of the toilet, I don't know. So the G-Man from episode 4 is a different clone. But as we remember, everyone who was in that episode turned into a Skibidi toilets. So this guy is now Skibidi Toilet, okay? In episode 5, we see the G-Man dancing downstairs again. Turns out this is the third one of them. Let's assume this same clone is dancing at the disco in episode 6, okay? But this G-Man in episode 8 already looks strange. I'm sure it's another clone, the fourth of them. We never saw another G-Man in human form after that. Meanwhile, only one of them definitely turned into a normal Skibidi toilet. I think it's him in episode 7, but enlarged. In the earlier episodes, we saw the regular G-Man toilet, and he was most likely alive and real. That said, he was strong enough to resist flushing. But he was a typical Skibidi toilet. His flush worked, and in theory, he could be destroyed that way. But now look at how this flush works. It's just a decoration. Remember how in the episode analysis I assumed this G-Man was real? I had my reasons, and now I'll remind you of them. This is where the Hypno gun didn't work on him, so he was a robot? I thought if he was a robot here, he must have always been a robot. No, because I didn't realize what this thing was. I always thought it was a stand, but it's another upside-down toilet. Oh my God, look. That curved thing is just the edge of the toilet, and that's the cistern. How did I not see that before? So every Skibidi toilet that had this thing on it is a puppet being controlled by whoever was in that toilet. That's crazy, but it explains a lot of things. First of all, why this imposter's head is so small compared to the toilet. I mean, Skibidi Scientist, maybe with his team of scientists and engineers doing some crazy experiments where they put one Skibidi in another to create this damn G toilet, or rather his clones. Then the only real G-Man toilet was the last time in episode 35. After that, we only saw his clones, and we don't know what happened to him. But then you ask me, ESO, so this flying Skibidi was just a puppet for someone?